What's up everybody, Steven Z Killer here. It's time to bring you a new reaction video. But before that, 75% of you guys watching right now are not subscribed. This means two things. You're either brand new to the channel or returning. And I do hope that this video gets you to hit that subscribe button today. Last year, we didn't hit our goal of 400,000 subscribers by the end of 2024. We almost got there, and we were so close to 100,000 new subscribers in that year. But I still need more people to join and subscribe to get my channel to hit 1 million subscribers. This upcoming year, the new goal is 500,000 subscribers. And I need you to hit that subscribe button today so we can hit it this year. I know we can do it. What's up everybody, Steven Z Killer here bringing another reaction, and today we're checking out some film theory. I don't check out film theory too often, but I do know people still enjoy some film theory reactions here and there, depending on the stuff. And what we're checking out today, if you can't tell by the look of things, thumbnail, title, and all that good stuff, we have a film theory on the upcoming Five Nights at Freddy's 2 movie. Now, we did get a trailer or a teaser. I think it was a teaser trailer. A teaser trailer not that long ago when it comes to the FNAF 2 trailer. If you guys want to see my reaction to that trailer, it's available on the channel, of course. And it actually gave us quite a bit. We got to see what Mangled looked like, Toy Freddy, Toy Chica, Toy Bonnie, and things looked really, really good. Now, when more trailers drop and we get closer and closer to the release, hopefully things keep looking better. Oh, we also got a little bit of Balloon Boy too, I remember. But I'm hoping that they can improve on the story in a way that might make the first movie better in the long run of things. Because to me, still, I feel like the first movie was very, I don't know. There are some plot points, aka the one woman in the movie that was plotting to get the little girl for financial reasons, never really amounted to anything and was just like an extra plot point that made no sense and also never really amounted to anything in particular. But I'm excited to see what happens, and I will say this now. When it comes to the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, out of 10 ranking-wise, I initially gave it like a 6. But over time, I think I'd give it like something between a 4 and a 5 out of 10. It's very mediocre. It's alright. But it's not crazy good. But hopefully the sequel can be better. Only time will tell. Either way, let me know what you guys think. Are you guys still hyped for? Let me know what you guys think. I don't know what I said there earlier. But yeah, are you guys hyped for the next movie? Let me know. All right, let's check this out. Link for this video will be down below. Like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. This dropped actually yesterday. Today is the 5th, and let's get it.
The teaser trailer for Five Nights at Freddy's 2 has finally dropped, and it managed to pack so much about its plot into just 50 seconds. Enough to solve this movie months before it's out.
Yeah, like I said, okay, so it was a teaser trailer. 50 seconds.
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Film Theory, the show that always comes back.
I do hope they don't give us too much, because that was the problem with the first movie. I feel like they gave us a little too much in the trailers.
Just like you can always come back by hitting that subscribe button. So, loyal theorists, the time has come. Five Nights at Freddy's is coming back to theaters this year. We're truly in the end game now, and the marketing for the Five Nights at Freddy's 2 movie has started up, with our first big look into the film coming with its official teaser trailer. Now, obviously, FNAF is a huge part of theorist history.
If it is releasing this year, we're probably going to be seeing it sometime between October and December. And I don't doubt that we should be getting a full-on trailer within the next 2 months.
I mean, it feels like we've done literally hundreds of videos about this franchise over at our sister location Game Theory. But the films are an entirely different beast, an entirely different timeline to theorize about. Matt trusted me to take on franchises like this as the film theorist. He trusted me to do our very first theory predicting the first movie because he was in it. So it's time to do the same with FNAF 2. In the past couple of weeks...
I wonder if we are going to get to see Matt again. I think there's been a lot of talk about Mark actually being in the second movie.
Tom and I have sat down and really put our heads together to figure out what the heck is going on here. Like, clearly this movie is taking cues from the FNAF 2 game, but that was a prequel to the first game, and this is clearly a sequel. What are the consequences of that change? And what does it mean for the story? Well, it might not look like...
You know, I never even thought about that. That's so fucking true. Technically, the second game is a prequel. Oh my god.
We have a lot to work with to figure that out. I mean, this trailer is barely 45 seconds long. Can we really crack this movie wide open with just that? Well, we figured out more with less, and I think we've done it, loyal theorists. By looking at this teaser, comparing it to what we know from the game series, adding in our speculation from the fallout of the first movie, and using the rules and laws of filmmaking in horror series like this, I believe I've solved where this movie is headed months before it's out. And not only that, but I think we can get a pretty good idea of
Wait, what did it say?
Months before.
Scheduled release date is December 5th? Really? Oh, and okay, so we are literally 7 months today. 7 months today away from this movie's release.
Before it's out. And not only that, but I think we can get a pretty good idea of where the inevitable FNAF 3 movie is headed to. So grab your spring-lock suits, loyal theorists, as we take a bite out of this teaser. So, okay, first things first, let's make sure we're all on the same page after this first movie, just in case you need a little refresher. And I mean, it has been a couple of years at this point, so understandable. Five Nights at Freddy's was the story of Mike Schmidt, a down-on-your-luck young man taking care of his kid sister Abby as he takes on a job as the night security guard at Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria. Mike is haunted by guilt for the death of his little brother Garrett, who was murdered by the serial killer William Afton, who also so happens to be the owner of Freddy's and killed several other children at the pizzeria years ago, and now those spirits haunt the restaurant and want Abby to become one of them. So Mike teams up with Afton's daughter Vanessa to take down Afton, save Abby, and hopefully find some peace for the ghost children. Well, at least until this sequel hits, right? Now, with that out of the way, let's...
My question though is, are we going to see Springtrap at the end of the movie as a, oh, Five Nights at Freddy's 3 movie's going to be, or are we actually going to get Springtrap in this movie?
Go through this teaser shot by shot and frame by frame. We open on a poster for Freddy Fazbear's. The glass on this poster display is broken, which may mean that it's the same poster we see in the first movie. If you don't remember, Max's brother and his gang of hooligans smashed and shattered this glass when they broke into Freddy's in that movie. Not sure if it's exactly the same poster, but it probably doesn't matter since I doubt we'll be spending a significant amount of time here anyway. Regardless, we do know that we are going back to the original pizzeria in some way. We know this thanks to some of our fellow FNAF tubers who did a set visit during the filming of this movie. Here we see that the studio rebuilt a facade of the front of the restaurant, but not the whole thing, so I doubt we're going to be spending a ton of time inside of it. Either way, this is just an establishing shot for us and the teaser, so let's move on. Next, we see a shot of an endoskeleton turning on. If you don't know, these are the mechanical parts inside of the animatronics that let them move and work. We actually see some of them getting worked on in the previous movie, but it's also worth noting that this one from the teaser, it isn't the same type. This is an Endo 02, a more advanced type of endoskeleton that we first saw in the FNAF 2 game, and I mean, hey, that makes sense. Like, it's the FNAF 2 movie, of course they're taking cues from the FNAF 2 game. Anyway, you can tell this thanks to the curved mouth on this one. The original endoskeletons in the first movie had squared off mouths. And there's a voiceover for William Afton welcoming us back to Freddy's.
Welcome back. Are you ready to start the show?
It's a nice meta touch to get us back.
I didn't realize that was his voice. I think I was like, in my reaction, I think I was like, is that William's voice? But I wasn't 100% on that.
In universe, this is likely a recording or a flashback to when one of the restaurants is having its big opening.
I don't doubt that we are going to have even more flashbacks that will show him possibly creating more endoskeletons and a bunch of other shit.
Since Afton is welcoming us back, I'm guessing that this is the sister location. It just seems more relevant than, say, the original location undergoing some sort of renovation and then reopening just for the sake of it. Either way, I expect that Afton's ghost will be using this audio to great effect. Like, if this is an actual audio recording, I could see him using it to torment Mike and the others. It would just be super creepy, and I'm all for it. Suddenly, we see ourselves in some sort of circus or fair. It's almost certainly Freddy Fazbear themed, since we see kids in the background dressed up as characters from Freddys. And there are also some themed attractions using those characters here. I'm almost certain that this is going to be an event called Fest. We know that this is likely going to be a big part of the story since those YouTubers I mentioned earlier, like Dawko, visited the set and found posters for this event. Now, this is interesting because the idea of a circus or of a carnival or fair is a big talking point in the FNAF community right now. I briefly mentioned this in my last FNAF movie theory, but in the lore of the Freddys games, there was an event called Fall Fest that ran from around 1970 until at least
I was about to say, isn't there actually like some type of fest that's in the game? I couldn't remember Fall Fest. Okay.
83. It's a huge part of the history of these characters in this world, and Scott seems to be bringing these ideas into the film universe in a new way. Let's be real, that makes sense with the way the movies have been streamlining and combining the expansive lore of the series, so yeah. The next thing we see is Abby pulling up to the second Freddy's location on her bike. This is the sister location, so to speak. So there are actually a few things we can gather from this shot. First off, if we look at both the state of the restaurant and the surrounding area, this location has been abandoned for a long time. The outside of the building is run down, and the parking lot is...
It looks dirty as fuck.
Overgrown with weeds and grass and the like. We can actually see this more clearly in those behind-the-scenes set visits from the FNAF tubers. Oh, and funnily enough, this building is actually in the same parking lot as the facade of the first Freddy's location that they built for this movie. But just so everyone's aware...
That's funny.
That doesn't mean that they're going to be in the same location or even anywhere close to each other in the actual...
It's just movie magic and whatnot. They just built the sets next to each other for convenience.
Movie. Film productions do this sort of thing all the time, reusing sets and locations and either changing the camera angles or background details to make them seem like different locations. It just saves on production.
Movie magic after everything's been filmed.
Costs, which is almost certainly what's happening here since this is a relatively low-budget horror film. Anyway, the second thing that we can gather from this shot of Abby, well, given Abby's expression here, she's likely never been to this location before. So, she's likely been drawn here by something. And I think I know what that thing is.
Golden
right
Freddy?
After this in the teaser, we see a shot of Mike finding a note taped to his door, reading, "Gone to fix my friends." This is probably from Abby and is explaining why she's left and gone to the sister location. The friends that she's talking about here in the note are probably the ghosts in the original animatronics. If you remember, Abby was super close to them in the previous film, enough so that they wanted her to be like them. But they seemed to end the last movie in a little bit of peace. So this note tells us that they're still in contact with Abby and that something has gone wrong since the last movie. Now that thing that's gone wrong could be a lot of things. Being trapped in new animatronic bodies, being tortured by Afton's ghost, but another big option? Perhaps that AI has gone a little rogue in these animatronics and is somehow controlling or hurting the spirits. Anyway, we might also know how they're talking to Abby. During one of his charity live streams, Dawko revealed an image of a Fast Talker toy provided to him by the film's production, with a screen on it reading, "You there?" Basically, if I had to guess, this looks like a way that the ghosts are communicating with the living characters. Now, this thing is strange because nothing like it has ever really appeared in the games. The closest we get is Afton's walkie-talkie in sister location, which he uses to communicate with the crying child. But even that is weird and different than what we're seeing here. The ghosts in the film seem to be able to just talk to Abby and communicate with other characters like Mike through their dreams. So perhaps this Fast Talker is a way for them to do so without needing them to be asleep. We then see a conversation between Vanessa and Mike, where Vanessa is warning him that
they're out there, Mike.
She's likely talking about the animatronics, which we'll get to in just a sec. But the big things here? Well, first off, Vanessa has completely recovered from her hospital stay, so I guess perhaps she was not a robot as much as Matt might have wanted her to be. But the other big thing here is that she's not wearing her comp uniform.
You know, I'm not gonna lie, I completely forgot that was a theory that Matt had. Back when the first movie came out.
Here or in any other shot in the teaser. Don't get me wrong, she could still be a cop and just be taking some time off or something, but this tells
most likely because of the events and everything. There's a chance that she lost her position as a cop.
Me that she's either stepped back from that role or has been let go from the force for some reason. We see another shot for holding a gun later in the teaser, so she might still be on the force, but I wouldn't be surprised if her connection to a serial killer was somehow revealed and compromised her job. But anyway, why was she warning Mike that they're out there? Well, that's
being a cop and working with a serial killer kind of defeats the purpose.
We see what looks like Toy Bonnie peeking in through a curtain into a window of a house. Shortly afterwards, there are a couple of other shots of Toy Bonnie lifting up some sort of needle as if he's about to attack somebody, and then a shot of a couple cowering in fear inside of a living room. These two shots are back to back, and though trailer editing doesn't mean that they're 100% connected, I'd be shocked if they weren't. Big picture here, though, is that Toy Bonnie and the other toy animatronics, as we're about to see, are no longer confined to the pizzeria, and that's a huge deal.
Oh, actually, what if? Okay, this is just a theory, and I'm wondering if he's going to go the same route. What if the killing intent William Afton had infected, because William in the regular FNAF stuff takes the animatronics, the original bodies, strips the endoskeletons, gets the remnant, and tries to put them in basically not these animatronics, but the sister location, Baby, Funtime Freddy, Funtime Foxy, etc., etc. But what if something similar took place here, but instead of all the spirit of the kids, it's also with a little twisted mindset spirit of murder intent from William Afton himself that has infected and changed these animatronics, where they are, based off that scene right there, Bonnie going out of the way and murdering that couple. That would explain that, because let's be honest, although they also have the tendency to look out for adults and try to stop them in the game, so maybe it could be something like that. I'm not sure yet, but I feel like for this to work sense-wise, there has to be some type of connection and some type of giving them a reason of having a more murderous attempt outside of the pizzeria. Like in the pizzeria, you're a guard, you gotta put the mask on. It tricks them thinking that you're already an animatronic. But if you're not and you're caught, they stuff you. But outside the pizzeria, it'd be way more sense if the killing intensity of William Afton has somehow, some way affected these models.
Deal. See, the animatronics going out and about isn't really a thing that we ever see in the game series. The closest thing I can think of is in Sister Location, when Innard leaves the Sister Location wearing Michael as a skin suit. But that's not nearly the same as the animatronics just like straight up roaming the streets like we see here. This is extra strange too, because it's established in the series that this would be pretty difficult for them. Glamrock Freddy from Security Breach explains that if the animatronics leave the Pizzaplex, they will eventually run out of power. Some endings have Freddy using a car battery to stay active because of this. And it's not just the Security Breach animatronics either, but in the Week Before novel, a story set in the week before the FNAF 1 video game, one of the main goals of the original
Well, I would say the only thing other than what he's talked about of animatronics is one second, I gotta sneeze. I feel it. Excuse me. I felt that sneeze coming. Is the Pizzeria Simulator. The animatronics, no, wait, actually they're brought there. Never mind. They didn't walk there and get discovered. They actually were brought there. Never mind. Yeah, never mind.
Animatronics is to be able to leave the pizzeria. To do this, they overcharge themselves so they don't need to charge themselves again, at least for a while. These toy animatronics might need to recharge at some point, giving our heroes a ticking clock that they can outlast as the animatronics slowly have to power down, perhaps over a series of days. So basically, they'd have to survive 5 nights at Freddy's, or rather, 5 nights outside of Freddy's. Of course, this scene with Toy Bonnie isn't the only scene throughout the teaser with the animatronics outside of the pizzeria. Later on, we see a man played by classic character actor Wayne Knight peering through a closet window in a school.
Oh,
he sees
wow.
Chica on the other side before she pulls him through the window, presumably to his death. We also see her feet in a room similar to this, but likely before or after she's pulled this man into the room, as well as a shot of...
Also, yeah, and there's also a shot of, like, Mangle breaking through a window, I think, in the teaser.
Toy Chica opening some sort of garage with her hands. There's also shots of Mangle breaking in through a window in a house, another one of Mangle crashing into a car windshield, and then someone getting attacked and pulled up to the ceiling by Mangle. It looks like that last scene probably also takes place in this school, and another shot shortly after this sees another new character, a blonde girl, looking up and screaming. Given the angle of...
I do hope the horror aspect of this movie is a lot stronger than the first. There was like only one death, one moment that was actually like a good jump scare, and they showed it in the trailer, which was the one woman who got basically pulled into Freddy's mouth and in the movie, you didn't see it in the trailer, but when she got pulled in, she basically got chomped in half. Half of her legs fell out and her torso stayed in. And that was like the only good jump scare in the first FNAF movie.
Of this shot looking down at this girl, this is likely from Mangle's point of view, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's immediately connected with the shot of Mangle pulling the other guy up to the ceiling. If I were to guess, this is likely a scene similar to the first movie where a bunch of side characters are killed to show just how dangerous these new animatronics are. I wouldn't be surprised if these characters go to school with Abby and are bullies or something similarly unlikable. We also see another shot of Mike, Abby, and Vanessa in what looks like an office in the school or some random house, looking terrified, so I'm betting that this school sequence is actually a big set piece for the movie. We then see a man's hand pressing a Showtime button to start an animatronic show. This is likely at the sister location since we see a different Showtime button in the first film, and that one's on a wall, not a podium. Next up, we have a shot of a silhouetted man in a hallway as doors fly open. This is actually a really effective shot in my opinion. It's very creepy. This man is almost certainly William Afton. His build just looks a lot like actor Matthew Lillard, and we know that he's going to be in this movie somewhere. I'm gonna say that this is either a dream sequence where he's haunting Mike and Vanessa, or it's literally his ghost haunting the two. Also worth
I feel like it would be make more sense if it's a dream sequence or a past sequence of some type. It could also be not only those two, but it also could be a nightmare for Abby.
noting that there are 6 doors in this scene, perhaps representing the 5 kids that Afton murdered from the restaurants, and Mike and Abby's brother Garrett, whom he also killed. This is likely setting up or reminding us of Afton's connection with Mike and Garrett, which will be explored later in the series. Actually, while we're on the subject, I gotta say, I think it's surprising the lack of Afton that we actually get in this teaser, other than some
I feel like if they want to do things right and set up the third movie, they need to set up him as just like kind of a thought and not the threat. And like I said, maybe his murderous intent has infused itself into the toy animatronics in some way, and that's why they're roaming and doing what they're doing. But at the end of the movie, we see him wake up as Springtrap, either at the end or end credit scene, something like that.
voiceover, and this scene here, the only other hint we get is a shot of Spring Bonnie's hand picking up a knife. I wouldn't be shocked if he's just not as present in this film as he was in the first one. I mean, it would be weird for him to come back as a big twist, third act villain when that's exactly what he did in the first movie, right? The time spent with Afton here in this second movie, in my opinion, would be better spent setting him up as a larger villain in the third film. But
I agree.
digress. Now we get a shot of a large Balloon Boy animatronic, eyes glowing as he activates inside one of the pizzerias. You can tell that it's that because of the checkerboard pattern here in the back of the shot. It's just classic FNAF imagery. Balloon Boy actually returns here from the first movie where he was just like a strange, haunted figurine. Talking about a glow up, am I right? So the fact that we're getting
Fuck you, Balloon Boy.
a Balloon Boy animatronic isn't that surprising. I mean, he was in the FNAF 2 game after all. But an interesting connection here
There must be a moment where he goes after those goddamn AA batteries.
that we put together? Well, in Tom's very first FNAF Theory as host of Game Theory, he talked about the Fall Fest and how that makes Balloon Boy make way more sense. Like, a guy holding balloons doesn't really fit super well with animal animatronics, right? But it would make sense at something like a carnival or a circus. A character walking around handing out balloons to kids and visitors.
Damn it,
The
wrong
fact
pipe.
that the movie seems to be rolling the idea of the circus in here with Fast Fest just really makes that work even more. And finally, we hear Afton yell Showtime before we see Toy Freddy walking through Fast Fest. If you notice, there are tons of other cosplayers here in the background, and it's just a really cool touch. Now then, that's all of the shots from the trailer, but what can we learn here by reading between the lines? And can we look back at some of our previous speculation and see how it lines up? Well, the first big flag
Like that right there. I'm
Can we
gonna
look
say
back
I'm
at
gonna
some of
bring
our
this back
previous
since it's right here. The shot of Springtrap picking up a knife. I feel like this has to also be part of a dream sequence. I don't think we're gonna physically see Springtrap at all in the movie. It's gonna be probably something dream related. I that's the only thing I can speculate. I feel is right for this movie is everything that has to do with him in the rabbit suit and him outside the rabbit suit for this movie should be some type of nightmare dream sequence, kind of escalating, or even some past stuff showing the development of maybe this could be a shot of him murdering some of the children that led to the first movie. That's also what a background on what he did and how he did it is desperately needed.
Speculation and see how it lines up. Well, the first big flag that Matt and I planted in our speculation about the rest of the FNAF movie series was that Garrett, Mike's brother that Afton killed, was going to replace Charlie as the spirit possessing the puppet. If you don't remember, the puppet was an animatronic introduced in FNAF 2, so again, it would make sense for them.
I don't think the marionette showed up at all in the teaser trailer.
To show up in this movie. Our big reasoning was that this would give Mike even more of a connection to Afton, offer some real emotional stakes to the other ghosts in the series, and that the puppet was teased in the credits of the first movie, spelling out "Come Find Me." Go check out our full theory talking about that if you want all the details. Well, this teaser gives us another big indication that the puppet is going to be a big player in the rest of this story, whether it's in this movie or another sequel. During some of Afton's voiceover in this teaser, we can hear the music box used to keep the puppet at bay in the FNAF 2 game playing in the background.
Welcome back. Are you ready to start the show?
So yeah, keep your eyes and ears peeled for more references to this and any indication that this version of the puppet is Garrett, because that is absolutely an arc that they're following here. A prediction that I'm a little less confident in, though, is my analysis of the script pages that Scott released. If you don't remember, last year in honor of the 10-year anniversary of FNAF, Scott released 4 pages of the script for FNAF 2. But the catch was that only one of them was real. If you want an in-depth look at these pages and an analysis of them, go check out my theory from last year. But
I don't remember that at all, honestly.
the one that I thought was going to be the real one was this one, which talked about haunted plushies and Mike coming to the realization that he'd need to burn them. At the time, I was confident that this was pointing to the toy animatronics being the villains of this movie and the need to destroy them. But after this teaser, I'm just less sure about that. I mean, hey, you can't get them all right all the time. See, Abby is the one encouraging Mike to burn the toys in this page, but that doesn't line up with what we see here in the teaser, where it looks like she's the one who wants to help save the plushies. So what does that mean for the pages? Well, if this one isn't correct, then I think the 4th page is. This one is from the cold open of the movie, describing a man taking his children into what we believe to be one of the pizzerias and into a secret room underneath its carousel. This page is an entirely realistic option. It actually came down to this one and the plushie burning page, but the reason I didn't go with it originally was because some of the characters present in the script probably shouldn't have been here. But now, especially with how the FNAF movie franchise is mixing and matching elements from across the entire game series and timeline, I'm less sure about that. So, okay, if this page is legit, then that begs the question, who is this guy? This man leading these kids into some level below the pizzeria?
William Afton, and it could be literally backstory and shot. That's what they need too. They need a lot of backstory on William Afton. Like I said earlier, like showing him do the murders. I feel like that was definitely something I feel like they didn't utilize or do much in the first movie. We heard, but I would have liked if they actually showed some of the murders, and if they can do it in this one, this could help fix the first movie.
Yeah. Well, the obvious answer would be Afton, and that this is some sort of flashback, but the page really implies that these kids are his actual children. We don't see Vanessa here in this flashback, so I don't think that this is Afton. So, who is it? Well, I believe that it's the person who's taken over Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria and is the entire reason this second movie is happening. Hear me out. So, I'm pretty sure that the shot of Toy Freddy walking through FazFest is set in the film's modern day and not during a flashback. Why do I think that? Well, think back to those set visit videos we talked about earlier. In those, Dawko and the other FNAF tubers found posters for FazFest on the facade of the rundown buildings. If this FazFest was set in the past, or during a flashback, the building shouldn't be nearly this rundown. So, okay, FazFest is set during the modern...
And if those flyers were old, they wouldn't look as nice and new as they do, not as brightly colored, freshly printed looking.
Day. But what does that matter? Well, think about this. The last time that we saw Afton, he was dying in his Springlock suit and his soul was being tortured by Golden Freddy. So if FazFest is set in the current day, and if Afton, the person who owns the Freddy Fazbear franchise, is dead, who is putting on FazFest? Well,
Afton's
if
wife?
I were a betting man, just like in FNAF 3 where some third party came in
Vanessa?
and bought all of the Freddy Fazbear assets to make a horror attraction, someone came in and bought all of Afton's assets after he died, and they're trying to relaunch the Freddy IP
Oh,
with...
Henry.
This Faz Fest. That is the guy from the cold open page. Oh, and as an aside, this could also explain why Abby feels like she needs to go help her friends. If a new group or company has come in and bought up all of the Freddy Fazbear assets and are trying to relaunch things, they may have taken parts from the previous animatronics to sort of repair or enhance the toy animatronics. And if they mixed and matched parts from the different animatronics, that could leave the spirits feeling mixed up and confused, similar to how the Funtime animatronics from the games were built using remnants, which just jumbled up their spirits. If you don't know what remnant is, bless you, you sweet summer child. It's a long story and not super relevant to this theory today, so just don't worry about it. Anyway, I believe that is the underlying storyline of this film. Someone new has come in to buy up Freddy, and they stumbled into something way darker than they anticipated. They somehow activated the toy animatronics, angered the ghosts, and now they're on a killing rampage through this town. So Mike, Abby, and Vanessa have to stop the animatronics while helping to save the ghosts, all while they're haunted by the memory of Afton and Garrett. Perhaps literally. So that's a lot, and while that's everything I think we can
I agree with a little bit of that theory. Oh, yeah.
About this movie from this.
I still feel like maybe there's a little bit of like something connecting their murderous intent from Afton himself, but that's the only thing I would say. I don't know if they would go out of their way as kid spirits to go and murder, but if they had some type of like influence from William in some way.
Teaser, I do believe we can sit down and look at what they've shown us here and get an idea of where future FNAF movies are going to. See, the very fact that we see the animatronics out and about in neighborhoods and carnivals and schools in this movie means that the FNAF film franchise is following an arc traditional for these sorts of horror films. With every single film, they need to be going bigger and better than the last, from one building to a larger neighborhood and a school in FNAF's case. And that tells us a lot about the stories they're going to adapt for the third film. We've talked about this in previous FNAF movie theories before, about how a third FNAF movie likely isn't adapting FNAF 3 because it isn't as exciting a game to transfer to the big screen. Like, if they kept things super faithful, it would just be like Josh Hutcherson and William Afton hanging out in an old building for an hour and a half. It's not exactly riveting cinema. And after watching this teaser, I think Scott...
I don't disagree with that.
And the filmmakers have realized this too, because they already seem to be incorporating a lot of the more interesting details from the FNAF 3 game into this movie, with someone new coming in to restart Freddy's. Because they're already likely using that plot point from the FNAF 3 game, I doubt that they'd reuse it in the FNAF 3 movie, so they'll need to do something else. FNAF 4 and being stuck in a dream makes even less sense, because it's so heavy and weird and isn't the escalation that the filmmakers are probably looking for. Right, a dream just feels smaller instead of going bigger. That's the natural arc of these sorts of films, and why eventually we get movies like Jason X where they jumped the shark so high they ended up in space. So think that through. We went from being in one location in FNAF 1, the pizzeria, where most of the hauntings happen in a single place. Once you actually leave Freddy Fazbear's, the characters were more or less safe for the rest of the movie. Now we're in FNAF 2, where the threats and hauntings have escalated outwards. The animatronics are no longer confined to a single location. They're out and about, attacking people in a wider set of locations like in a neighborhood or at a school. So what would a third movie need to do to go even bigger than that? My first thought was that maybe, hey, they'll pull a Jurassic Park 2 and we'll end up in a city of some sort. And then I thought, nah, that'd be kinda dumb. Like, what is Scott gonna do here? Pull out the old Plushies Take Manhattan script? No, man, no. They could do something similar to Pizzeria Simulator, but I'm also skeptical of that simply because they don't really have enough characters to do the whole gather and burn it all down like we see in that game. Two movies.
I feel like if anything, the Pizzeria Simulator storyline will be more of a fourth movie thing. I feel like this movie is trying to mix together the second and third game, but there's still parts of the third game that need to go into the third movie, with maybe some of the things going on between what happened in the fourth game could be utilized and or twisted into the third movie, and then that pizzeria simulator stuff can be kind of utilized for the fourth Five Nights at Freddy's movie.
Worth of animatronics just is
with also Sister Location. I feel like a mixture of the Pizzeria Simulator and Sister Location could be the fourth movie of Five Nights at Freddy's.
Isn't enough. So what's the next logical step then? Well, say it
With the third movie leading into Sister Location and us maybe seeing Baby at the end of that movie kind of situation. You know what I mean?
with me, security breach. I mean, yeah, we saw that coming. We already
I think security breach could be something like the fifth Five Nights at Freddy's movie, to be honest.
have Vanessa as a main character in these films. A large mall or building like a pizzaplex is a natural escalation for these sorts of horror film franchises. This would let us introduce another new slate of animatronic characters that fit the cast that we've established in these movies, and the bones of the security breach story would allow for closure for Mike, Abby, and Vanessa. They could end the story by burning everything down and releasing the spirits of the dead kids, all while moving on from the trauma and experience themselves. Plus, it would allow for this FNAF movie trilogy to hit all of the biggest and most recognizable parts of the FNAF games, while leaving other, more out-there projects like Help Wanted or the novels open for adaptation down the line should the movie franchise
Oh, that's true too. They could do spin-off movies of the books and
be
stuff.
successful enough to continue. It all just makes too much sense, and that's why I'm planting my flag here now. Five Nights at Freddy's 3 is going to be a security breach adaptation. And hey, maybe if it does well enough, one day we'll get far enough along in this series
I feel like the second movie is definitely Five Nights at Freddy's 2, Five Nights at Freddy's 3, with maybe some other things could be trickled in. And then the third movie should be, I think, Five Nights at Freddy's 4, Sister Location, and Pizzeria Simulator. And then Five Nights at Freddy's 5 could be Security Breach. That's kind of how I feel like, with maybe some of the other things setting up for the book series, that kind of blend of things.
to adapt FNAF world. I actually think that would
No.
legitimately be pretty cool. But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory. And cut. Up.
Alright, well, hopefully you guys enjoyed this reaction. Stay tuned for more videos. Check out the video earlier today. It was an awesome Minecraft animation. Go check that out now. Check out yesterday's videos, the day before, last week, all kinds of stuff. I always strive for 2 videos every day. Sometimes I'm not able to, but I guarantee no matter what, every single day there's a brand new video guaranteed. And also, sometimes I even throw out a third video. So look out for anything. Anyways, till next time. Later.
In the pixelated world where the gamers unite, there's a name that shines bright, bringing joy to the night. Steven's killer, he's the king of the screen. With his epic playthroughs, he ranks as a meme. Laughing out loud as we watch him explore. From horror to laughter, we can't help but want more. With a heart full of passion, he shares his delight. Steven's killer, take us on an